Nature's Foundling by J.C. Woods. Status: first pass edit completed. Hundreds of years ago on the shore near present-day Yokohama, rumors claimed that a wild girl stalked the nearby forest. Not a kitsune, fox girl, but a tailless little human beast. A boy named Yoshi claimed that she attacked and bit him when he entered the forest to collect fallen wood for his master. Villagers became wary of traveling within the forest lest the little beast attack them. Some claimed that she was not a human girl at all but a kami, a spirit protecting the forest. Others scared children into behaving with stories of a kami seizing naughty children to become their wild servants in the forest. Inspecting the docks and ships below the palace, young Lord Akamatsu heard these fantastic tales of the little wildling. Since his father, the daimyo, had become ill, young Lord Akamatsu had taken greater responsibility within the family's realm despite his youth. Akamatsu worried about his daimyo's well-being as the shoshire understood that he was still too young to inherit his father's title and responsibilities. Should his father join the ancestors, then Akamatsu's uncle would become regent until Akamatsu became old enough to be daimyo himself. Akamatsu resolved that later in the day he would pass under the torii gate to the temple so he could make an offering to his ancestors and pray that they would protect his father. A daimyo was a feudal lord in Japan subordinate to the shogun, a military commander under the emperor. As a large landowner, the daimyo's responsibilities included the productivity of his estate, caring for his peasants and other subjects, and the collection of taxes. Additionally, the daimyo had military responsibilities as the leader of his own army. The Akamatsu clan had served the shogun for generations. Akamatsu clan tradition expected each son to become a samurai, a fierce warrior trained in weapons and tactics. Within the Akamatsu clan, the eldest son of the daimyo would be his shoshire, designated heir. Upon the daimyo's death, if his shoshire had not yet achieved his majority, then typically an older uncle would be designated as regent and rule in cooperation with a regency council. Young Lord Akamatsu was not ready for his father to join their ancestors. While he could fight to serve his shogun, he was not yet old enough to lead the army or manage the family's estate. He reassured himself that if necessary, his uncle would act for him until he was ready. The family's responsibilities would be met and protected. Yet he was just beginning to understand how much he still needed to learn from his father. A future serving his daimyo and father was a value Akamatsu did not wish to lose so soon. Distracting himself from his concerns about the possible, Akamatsu rode his horse from the docks into the unsavory section of the village where animals were butchered and leather produced. The unclean bureaucramen fell to their knees in respect for their young lord. Bureaucramen worked with death and blood, reducing them to the lowest caste within Japan. Such debasement was hereditary and immutable. He stopped before a familiar hut where a strong middle-aged man had been butchering a deer but stopped to kneel before Akamatsu. From his horse Akamatsu asked the bloody man, "Haruki, how is our daimyo's forest?" Haruki reassured, "Bountiful, young Lord Akamatsu. The kami have blessed me today with a deer, which will provide meat and leather. Is there something more specific that interests you?" Akamatsu smiled at Haruki's ability to get to the point without courtly proprieties. He replied, "Rumors on the docks and ships are that the forest is haunted by a wild girl." Haruki nodded, "Sutiko, that is what we call her. She is more than rumor, as I saw her briefly before she disappeared in the undergrowth." Knowing that he came to the right man, Akamatsu continued, "If Sutiko were a woman or man I might understand, but I am told she is only a girl. While an interesting topic for the gossips, I doubt a herd of orphans in our daimyo's forest will be compatible with its bounty." Haruki laughed in appreciation of the young man's humor, which was detected from the sparkle in the eyes of an otherwise austere young face. Anticipating his young lord's intent, Haruki speculated, she would be tougher to catch than an average doe without the same profit. Understanding Haruki's bargaining, Akamatsu smiled, "True, as her meat would be slight and unsuitable. I will make it worth your time should you capture her unharmed. I cannot have young ronin infesting my father's forest and eating its bounty." Considering next steps, he commanded, "Bring her to me in the castle should you catch her, but be careful as I am told she bites." Several days later, while Akamatsu practiced his archery in the courtyard, Haruki approached while pulling a cart. With a triumphant greeting he announced, "My young Lord Akamatsu, I bring you what you requested from the forest." Putting aside his bow, Akamatsu asked, "Is it human, beast, or creature?" Stopping the cart before Akamatsu, Haruki answered, "She looks human." Wearing only dirt and her own natural pelt, she had nowhere to hide a tail or other oddities. I wrapped her in an old dirty cloth, so she would not startle the villagers. She rests in the cage in the back of my cart. They walked to the back of the cart, which contained a bamboo cage. Akamatsu peered between the stakes, finding a pile of dirty cloth wiggling with someone or something beneath it. Curious, Akamatsu lifted a corner of dirty cloth, under which two little hungry eyes stared back at him. He asked Haruki, "What can you tell me about your catch?" Haruki grinned as he began his tale, "While on the business of my regular hunting, I tracked her for days. She is a little girl, not more than 10 years old, so not yet blossoming as a woman. She is elusive and quick, so likely to dart away if allowed out of her cage." Lord Akamatsu considered Haruki's words as he stared under the cloth into Sutiko's hungry eyes. For us, we should note that the Japanese then did not count age as we do today. At birth, these long ago Japanese counted the child's age as 1 instead of 0 years old. Further, the child would gain another year on the first day of the Kanroku solar year instead of the anniversary of the child's birth as we practice. Thus, by our modern reckoning, Sutiko may have been only 8 or 9 years old. Akamatsu asked, "She was alone?" "Yes, but for the other animals and the kami," answered Haruki. Within the Shinto beliefs of the Japanese, humans are not alone in our world, as the kami are part of nature. For them, kami are divine spirits present in all things, including natural elements and living beings. While perhaps unfamiliar to us, such animist beliefs have been common in the past, best known popularly as part of native tribal culture in North America and within sub-Saharan African cultures. "She does not appear unhealthy, perhaps thin," observed Akamatsu. "Is she more animal or human? Can she speak?" "Young Lord Akamatsu," Sutiko only growled at me. Her eyes betrayed no understanding of my own speech. Capturing her was a matter of setting a trap and applying force to subdue her. While agile and fast like a little beast, she demonstrated human cunning superior to a fox, reported Haruki as he thoughtfully scratched his scalp. Examining Sutiko's hungry eyes beneath the cloth, Akamatsu observed tiny rivulets of tears carving channels in her dirty cheeks. Defiantly she attempted to be threatening, "Gore, gore," but then she let out an unexpected squeak, which made Akamatsu laugh despite his usual formal and reserved nature. As Shoshire, Akamatsu's voice and words communicated his power and authority. He accepted that this little beast girl could not understand his words. If he commanded, could she even obey? Or would she simply bite him? He had dealt with animals before, was she that much different? He realized that she would be untrained, but untrained animals were not unfamiliar to him. Considering his options, he recalled the bowl of akabe berries that he had left on a chair while he practiced archery. After retrieving the berries, Akamatsu approached the cage containing Sutiko. Taking a bright juicy red berry in his hand, he put it under the cloth as an offering to Sutiko. After a moment, he felt her grab his fingers as she sniffed the berry. Gently she took a bite of the berry instead of his fingers. Her fearful eyes widened with pleasure at the flavor. Peeking under the cloth, Akamatsu saw her joy as she licked the juice from his fingers. Sutiko let out a little sound as she ate. Her alert eyes stared back at Akamatsu like a cute but wild animal. With his other hand, Akamatsu affectionately petted Sutiko's dirty and matted hair. Surprised by his touch, Sutiko flinched briefly away in fear, but she surrendered to his expression of kindness. She leaned into his hand, enjoying this novel feeling of affection. She seemed to like it, closing her eyes as his fingers softly brushed through her dirty, shaggy black hair. She purred as she finished the berry. Akamatsu smiled at his success establishing a connection with his little savage. He continued to offer her berries to build upon his opening. Sutiko's eyes lit up at the sight of each new berry. Hungry, she ate them quickly and greedily. It was clear she loved their flavor. She continued to munch on the berries, enjoying their sweetness. She took his hand and pulled it towards her face, hoping to lick the remaining berry juice off his fingers. Akamatsu smiled and laughed with achievement. Sutiko had become relaxed with him. She asserted her own initiative instead of remaining passively observant. She kept eating berries before dropping his hand and looking at him expectantly for more. She made a whining sound, waiting impatiently and hungry. Her childish appearance and manner, even with the unkempt, dirty hair, caused Akamatsu to find her adorable like a kitten. Sutiko made a cute begging expression as she stared at him, waiting to be fed again. Akamatsu directed her rookie to open the cage while Akamatsu sat in the chair with the bowl of akabi berries. Akamatsu held out his hand holding the bowl towards Sutiko as an invitation. Sutiko made an excited whimpering sound when the cage door opened. She looked around curiously, before exiting the cage, then ran right over to Akamatsu. He realized that he had won her trust as she chose berries from him over attempting to escape back to the forest. She surprised Akamatsu by crawling up into his lap and leaning her head against his chest. As she did so, she reached into the bowl and began feeding herself berries. In that moment, Akamatsu felt compelled to care for and protect this trusting little creature. As she contented herself with more berries, Akamatsu gently petted her dirty hair while observing her with an affectionate smile. Inadvertently, he whispered his thoughts to her, "You are an adorable little she-beast. You will make a delightful pet." Sutiko could not understand his words, but his manner caused her to giggle with joy and contentment. The way he gently petted her hair comforted her. Despite not understanding the meaning of the words, she responded as if from a distant memory that she did understand that his sounds intended to communicate meaning. She loved this new sensation of affection, although she did not know exactly what it meant. He was not growling at her or chasing her as were typical interactions for her. She looked up at him with her big, black eyes, seeming genuinely charmed by him. She looked happy, enjoying the berries and the petting of her head. As Sutiko ate, Akamatsu dismissed her rookie, who then pulled his cart from the courtyard. After Sutiko finished eating, Akamatsu put her down, then stood up. He arranged the cloth around her and tied it off with some spare rope. He held out his hand in invitation for her to hold as they walked together. Accepting the gesture with understanding, she took his hand with hers, her little feet running to keep up with his longer strides. She stared up at him in awe, curious to learn from him and about him. She enjoyed the comforting way that his fingers wrapped around hers, providing security. She continued to follow him, trusting his lead. She glanced up at him from time to time, making adorable little squeals as she did. Akamatsu replied as if they were in conversation, "Aren't you cute with your little squeaks?" Sutiko smiled at him and made a couple more cute squeals. "Squeak," she answered. Sutiko looked up at the towering young man, enjoying being doted on by him. Her adoring squeals only made her appear cuter. Something within Akamatsu was stirred by Sutiko's little noises, an affection like a father's affection for his own child. He found this little unknown girl undeniably adorable, but he was unaware at that moment she was not an ordinary girl. Akamatsu teased, "You are a dirty little thing. You do need a bath. I hope you can accept a bath without getting distressed." Sutiko froze, her expression changing to one of fear and distress. She had not understood his words, but she sensed an uncertainty in his tone. She looked back at him, suddenly nervous and fearful. She immediately clung to him tightly, hiding her face and looking away from him in a panicked way. Confidence and certainty returned to Akamatsu's voice when he teased, "Oh, then I will have all the fun. No fun for you. No splashing for you." None of his words had any meaning for Sutiko. However, the return of certainty in his voice reassured her. Although she still shook in fear, she held tightly to him, hoping he would comfort her. Akamatsu laughed in reassurance as he picked her up to carry her to the bath. He instructed a maid as he passed her to bring water for a bath. Akamatsu put Sutiko down into the empty tub and removed her cloth covering. He took off his robe as he anticipated lots of splashing. Maids appeared to fill the tub with water. Sutiko, being familiar with streams, took a drink from the water in the bath. Akamatsu squatted next to the tub wearing only his hakama, a wide-legged trouser. To encourage Sutiko to do more than drink her bath water, he played and splashed in the water to demonstrate that it was fun. He laughed as he played. Play was unknown to Sutiko, so she tried mimicking Akamatsu's behavior. Soon she laughed as she enjoyed the splashing of the water. As she played, Akamatsu accepted ash from the maid. He added water to the ash to form a runny paste. As Sutiko played in the water, he wetted her dirty hair and body. He used the ash paste with water to clean the dirt from her hair and skin. Akamatsu said as he worked, "Enjoy your bath, little she-beast. If you had not claimed this bath as yours, then I would have had to give it to the dog. Now what would have been her fun is yours." She let out cute little squeals as he massaged her clean. "I am almost done. As soon as I finish you can splash around like a wild child again," Akamatsu teased. As he finished rinsing off the ash and dirt, she jumped around the tub, splashing wildly in a rush of eagerness. Her body moved so quickly that it made big splashes, spraying water into his face. She had no regard for his comfort, enjoying the fun without worrying about the mess. This bath was all about Sutiko as she enjoyed that moment. Akamatsu laughed and clapped in encouragement. Sutiko continued to play in the splashing water with no intention of stopping. She seemed to be loving every minute of it. She had the time of her life splashing and splashing, having no idea that she was making a mess. She did not seem upset in the slightest that she got him wet. She squealed and giggled happily until she eventually tired herself out, then sat with breathless, happy panting. Sutiko seemed delighted with this new feeling of being clean. "Under all that dirt, I think we may have found a little girl." "Do you agree?" observed Akamatsu. "You probably lost a can of dirt in that bath." At that time in Japan, weight was not measured in kilograms or pounds, but instead in can. For comparison, consider that 1 can weighs about the same as a gallon of water. Now that Sutiko was cleaned, Akamatsu inspected her for injuries. Despite many scratches and bruises, she had no concerning damage. However, Akamatsu noticed something that he had not before, a red mark on her lower belly. It was neither dirt nor an injury, but instead an unusual birthmark. As Akamatsu lifted her out of the tub and put furoshiki wrapping cloths around Sutiko's body to dry it, he considered the meaning of her birthmark. As if she was touched by a divine kami, her birthmark was shaped like a petal from the flower of a sakiki tree, whose leaves are considered pure for use in rituals and offerings at Shinto shrines. He wondered whether Sutiko could be a connection between the earthly and divine realms, or whether her birthmark was simply evidence that she was blessed or favored by the kami. He resolved that she could only survive alone in the forest under the protection of the kami. Yet the kami allowed Haruki to capture her and bring her to Akamatsu. She must have a purpose in her life for the kami, but now so too might he as they had directed her to his care. He swallowed hard at this responsibility. Akamatsu considered the placement of the birthmark significant as it was over the hara, the seat where physical and spiritual forces converge, grounding the individual and connecting them to the universe. He swallowed hard as he considered the other possible meaning of that location. While Sutiko was still a child herself, within her belly under that protective mark of blessing was her womb. He thought perhaps this blessing could also be regarding her future children. For Akamatsu, these symbols were clear but ambiguous. He resolved that a priest at the temple might better guide his understanding. Given all the alternatives, he clearly understood his responsibility to care for and protect Sutiko. Maybe the kami chose him for that role, but he would act as if they had. Akamatsu thought to himself out loud, "We are going to need to find something clean for you to wear. Long-term solution, I will send a maid to get or sew you a suitable dress. In the meantime, you can wear my robe." He removed the furoshiki wrapping cloths, then wrapped his robe around her before tying the belt closed. Sutiko giggled and squealed at the sight of his large robe on her, covering up her entire body except for her head. In this way, she looked like a child playing dress-up, although her cuteness did not diminish. "Come with me," Akamatsu commanded as he extended his hand for her to hold. Sutiko smiled as she took his hand in hers, allowing him to guide her. She had become quite trusting of him since he had treated her kindly and did not try to hurt her or restrain her. She felt comfortable letting him lead the way. Akamatsu walked her to his shinshitsu, his private room for study and sleep. He rolled out his futon and placed her on it before laying down next to her. Gently petting her now clean hair, he soothed, "You have had a busy and stressful day. Who knows how you were able to sleep safely in the wild? Have a little nap. You are safe and no longer imprisoned within Haruki's cage." Sutiko was relieved to finally have a moment to rest, after the stress of the day and the bath. She smiled happily as she scooched closer to him, wanting to be near him. She smiled at Akamatsu, trusting him to care for her. Her weariness finally caught up to her, and she closed her eyes to rest, drifting off slowly to sleep. Akamatsu soothed, "You are free, but I hope that you will be happy to stay with me and be my little pet. I promise to care for and protect you." Sutiko lay there, hearing every tender and caring word without understanding the words, but feeling their intent from his touch. She seemed comfortable being his pet and staying with him. Though she was not all the way asleep, she curled up tightly against him to sleep. Akamatsu pondered, "I still need to name you, so I do not call you my little she-beast forever. Maybe I will get to know you better before I name you, so it fits your personality. Perhaps I will name you Kedakai, so that you are always reminded to have a noble spirit of good morals." Kedakai, recently known as Sutiko, did not move from his side, still asleep and calmed by the sound of his voice. Akamatsu soothed, "Sleep my little Kedakai, as you are no longer alone and neglected. The kami protected you, but now so do I." Kedakai continued to listen to him, not understanding the words but feeling the affection and comfort as he patted her soft, clean hair. Her breath started to even out as she continued to drift closer towards her deep sleep. She was no longer afraid or stressed, she felt protected by Akamatsu in her sleep. She was happy to be cared for and protected as she was no longer alone. The end for now.